crafty friends. So glad to see you again here for another week of Running with Scissors. And we are into our third week with our Stamp Focus Challenge. And I'm really excited about today's project because it is fun and super, super cool. So I hope you guys are as excited about it as I am. It has breathed new life into the idea of shaker cards for me. If you don't like shaker cards or have never created a shaker card because they just look too difficult or too bulky or too much of a pain in the butt, then today's technique is for you for sure. So hello to everybody in the chat. So glad to see you all out there chatting away. And as usual, I need to switch my chat to live chat. So that way I get all of the chat in order. Excellent. So happy to see everybody out there. Are we ready to get started? Yes, let's. Hey, I would like to say thank you to all of the new subscribers that I have to my channel. Welcome to all of you. I'm so glad you're here supporting me on this crafty journey, and I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you for all the support that everyone has provided me over the last few months, especially. So thank you for that. As always, if you need to do some crafty shopping, I've got the links down below for today's shopping list, and you can go ahead and click on that. It will take you over to Linkdeli and show you everything that I'm using today, and you can grab what you might need from the various stores where it is available. I will perhaps receive a small commission, always at no additional cost to you. Because of the way the affiliate link system works, I never really know if I'm going to get a commission or not. It all kind of depends on whose links you click on in between mine and all that good stuff. So it's all kind of a really crazy thing. Anyway, if you do need to do some crafty shopping, of course, those links are down below and they're also pinned into the live chat as well. If you don't need to do any crafty shopping, you can always hit me up on my tip jar as well. There's a link down in the description and again in the chat pinned up at the top for the tip jar. And thank you very much to Sandra for tipping. And you know what else? Rachel. Sandra, you must have just tipped because it wasn't there earlier. So thank you for tipping, and thank you to Rachel as well. I don't know. I was going to change. Oh, here we go. And to Nancy. Oh my goodness. Look at all these people that have just literally you just dropped some change in the tip jar. Thank you to all of you. I truly do appreciate it. So thank you very much. You can always click on that link and add your name to that list too. So thanks guys. That was kind of crazy. Hey, I have taken some time to clean out the craft space. I've actually had these bags of craft stuff all bagged up and ready to sell for months now. I'm just now getting around to it. So if you are looking for some super, super gently used craft products, most of them are things that I've used from some of my design team work. If you're looking for a fun mystery box of crafty stuff, I have a limited supply of them available on my website. Go to NicoleWattCreates.com/destash and grab one or two, however many you want. They are all different. So you can rest assured that you can get multiples if you want. They are super deep discount and jam-packed full of stuff. So go out and grab one. All right. Of course, we are in week 3 of the Stamp Focus Challenge, and we've got some winners. So drum roll to everybody. Our winners this week for our prize packs are Lynn P and Tressa S. So congratulations to both of you ladies. You are going to get some prize packs headed out your way. They'll get mailed out this weekend, tomorrow as a matter of fact. So yes. Prizes. Congratulations. And of course they're getting prizes because they're a part of the Stamp Focus Challenge and because they decided to link up their projects with our In Links Link Up private to the challenge. So congratulations to you both. If you are in the challenge and you haven't linked up yet, why not? You could be a winner. Super easy. You don't need to create anything spectacular. You just need to share along the way. So because the winners are randomly selected, it has nothing to do with how amazing or whatever your project is. Just share. That's all I want you to do is share. All right. Excellent. Let's move down to my hands. So as a part of the Stamp Focus Challenge, of course, this week, our challengers have gotten some materials. The basic frameless shaker. Gosh, I love this, guys. I mean, this is just a piece of designer paper, pattern paper with some shaker bits in there. So we're going to do this today. I love this. This has breathed total new life into shaker cards for me. The faux watercolor dip die. Tons of fun. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Really, really cool. All right. And then, of course, our project for today. Let's take a look at it. The dip dyed Shaker Dream. I love this card. I have always liked the idea of a shaker, right? So I think they're really, really cool, but they're always so thick. But look at how thin this one is. Look at how thin that is. You can go all the way to the edge if you want. You can make a smaller piece. You could even do shapes if you wanted to. It would just take a little bit more time to do the little cuts that you would need in order to cover the entire thing with the plastic. So I hope that you kept a piece of packaging from your recycle bin or your trash bin for that matter, because we're going to be using some recycled plastic today. Now, one thing to watch out for is sometimes these have little holes in them, right? And that helps to keep it from being too puffy, and it keeps pulls the air out of it and helps it for what it is intended for. So when you're cutting out, make sure that you're avoiding any kind of hole that might be in your packaging, right? So cut out from the center, or just avoid those little holes along the way, all right? So just be careful of that, because then otherwise your shaker bits are going to fall out of it maybe, and that won't be so fun. Surprise! Wouldn't that be hilarious? Okay. So this is our lovely project for today. It's got a couple of different steps to it. And we're going to get started with the background first. So this dip dye idea, right? And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And, you know, like I don't even have my stamp set or anything out right now, because we need to start with the actual watercoloring. So lots of different fun things going on today. I've got a piece of paper here, so that way I can kind of lean my paper up against it if I need to. I'm going to be using the watercolor brush markers from Ulta New. Now, here's a funny thing. I like these, but I very rarely use them as intended, because they're super, super potent. Super potent. So a lot of times I just end up dripping it out onto my mat and using it that way instead of using the marker itself, which is, you know, that's just kind of how I roll with these for some reason. So if you don't think that you're going to want the marker version of it or whatever, you can always just get the refills. And this is just basically liquid watercolor. Okay, so you don't have to go for the brush if you don't think you're going to like it. You can just get these, and you can buy these individually so you can get just the colors that you like, right? Okay, so I am going to be using Rubelite. I actually don't have the refill for it, so I'll be using it from the brush. I'll show you how that works. And we're going to be using this set again next week, which is another reason why I'm like, oh, I'm just going to use the marker, the brush marker. Okay, so I've got some water here, and I have a big fat brush. So some of the challengers noted that their background was maybe not as nicely blended. So a couple of little tips for you on this. One, use a larger brush. This is a number 7 brush, so you can kind of see how big it is. I mean, it's like as big as the end of my pinky finger here, right? So it's pretty big, all right? You can even go bigger if you want. And I'm also using a larger piece of paper than I plan on using to end with. All right, so this way I can go all the way across, and it'll look really nice. And then I'm going to stamp on it anyway, so this will be a nice canvas for the entire stamp, and then I can cut out what I want when I'm done. Okay, so I'm using a larger piece of cardstock. So this is 5.5 by 5.5, I think I did. Yeah. So cut yourself a larger piece of cardstock, and then, you know, cut down from there. All right. So those are my 2 tips getting started here. Of course, you guys can ask questions along the way. So next thing I'm going to do is prep my watercolor. So when I'm doing it this way, I just find a little push on the brush here. I'm just going to let go of a whole bunch of it. All right. So the key to faux dip dye. So think about how dip dye would normally work, right? You would dip this into some ink, and then pull it out. And when you pull it out, it's going to be one level of color, right? And then you're going to let it dry, and then you would put it in again, and then not go as far. So we're going to start from the top with our lightest shade and then work our way down. So if you're going to be working with more than one color, you have to think about how your colors are going to work together. So in this case, I'm just using one color. I'm just going to use the rubellite, but I don't want it to be very dark. So you see how much I put a ton of water down here and just grabbed a little bit of the rubellite. And I'm just going to put a line across here. So, and here's what I love about this. It doesn't need to be straight, because when you dip this in the water, it doesn't really end up straight, does it? When you dip this in water, it always ends up being just a little bit wonky. So you don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be straight. Actually, it looks better when it's not. I'm just going to go all the way down to the bottom. I mean, this is a great technique. Somebody said it was really relaxing. Tracy, she said it was really, really relaxing. I totally agree. So I've got the paper here because sometimes I just like to let it drip off the end and not build up down there. So this is my first layer. All right, now the key here is to dry it. So I did preheat my heat it tool today. Hang on a second. Oh, stand by. Wow. I don't think that's ever happened before. My phone's going off in the middle of a live stream. Anyway, I preheated my heat it tool here. So there we go. And it doesn't take long for this to dry, right? But this is my first layer. And I don't care if the paper gets wonky. We'll be able to get it back into a flat semblance shortly. All right, because see, it's going to curve a little bit. No big. Right? If you want, you can hit it from the back side. And it will straighten out just a little bit. All right, so there we go. Layer one, done. All right, so now our next layer needs to be darker. Because I'm using the same color, I'm just going to grab some more of my rubellite and add it to the water that I had going on here. And you're better off kind of starting a little lighter than you think you might need, and then going from there. Now, this can be, it can kind of go straight across, or it can go a little bit at an angle if you want. So if you wanted it to angle a little bit, you could do that. All right, so while it's wet, you need to make that decision on like how angled you want it to be. And then again, you want to color this all the way in. You want to paint this whole bottom so that the color is matching. And I'm using, I mean, a moderate amount of water. It's not dry. If it looks like it's not blending super well, just give it a second, and it probably will. All right, but you see what happened there? I did this right up against the dry, and so now it's got like this nice, well-defined line here. It's beautiful. So Paula wants to know if I'm using normal card or watercolor card, and this is watercolor card. So yeah, because otherwise, you know, results may vary with regular cardstock. You might end up with pilling, or, you know, it just doesn't really take the water as well. So watercolor card is obviously preferable here. All right, so again, I'm going to dry this up. You could let it air dry, right? It's just that it's going to take longer, right? And I'm typically impatient for that kind of thing. All right. So there we go. Second level. And then we just keep repeating this, right? So again, I'm going to add some more water down here because I'm running out. I'm going to take lots of the rubellite this time. Actually, I might just place this whole thing it was all just blending together anyway. All right, so next level. And they don't have to be even. I could go a really big space. You know, I could go way down here if I wanted to. Or I could go a little closer. However you want to do it. All right. And if it doesn't seem like it's dark enough, that's okay. Go ahead and just kind of fill it in. And then if you feel like you need more, of course, you can just start adding more. Now, if you get to the point where the color is just not dark enough anymore, you may need to start mixing colors or go to another color altogether. So I might need to go into like Midnight Violet if I felt like I really needed to get something darker going on here. And I'm just getting right up to the edge because it's already started to dry a little bit. There we go. So I added a little bit more in here, and that's giving me a nice dark panel here. All right. So Chris wants to know what kind of paint am I using. So this is the watercolor, the Ulta New watercolor brush markers. They are listed in the supplies link. I'll bring them back into the picture here in a second, as soon as I get this dry for you. I love this particular color. It's called Rubelite because it starts off as a red when it is wet, but when you dry it, it turns into this gorgeous ruby red color. It's really, really pretty. All right, so let me pull these back into the picture real quick here for you. So here they are, the watercolor brush markers, the Spring Garden set. So we're using Rubelite. Yep. All right, so I'm down to, I'm going to need to make this really, really dark. So I'm probably not going to mix this with much water here. Right. And so see that? I don't know if it's going to be, that's going to be dark enough. So here's the crazy thing. I'm going to pull out Midnight Violet. I'm going to add just the littlest bit. So this is just going to give me maybe a little bit more of a contrast in the color. Make it just a little bit deeper. Did you see I just added the tiniest bit there? We'll see if that makes a difference. All right. That did help. So I picked Midnight Violet because it is basically a analogous color. It's right next to red on our color wheel, right? So I knew that it was going to blend really well. It wasn't going to create like a really gross muddy color, right? And I don't have to go any further, all right? This is as far as we really need to go. If I wanted to, I could do more, right? So let's say I wanted to add one more layer. So I'm just showing you guys, for example, here. And what I would do is really get out a lot of this purple and mix this together. Get us a really, really dark, yummy shade. And pop that on the bottom. And in the video that I shared with the challengers, they got to see what this looks like when you do a decal edge or you tear the edge of the bottom first. It looks really, really pretty. But for a shaker card, you really don't need to do that. Yeah, Sue, any watercolors will work. So you could even do a pan set with this as well. You don't have to use liquid watercolors. Any watercolor will work. So there. And then I'm just going to go ahead, and I've got some extra paint here. I'm going to do some splattering. Not enough water on my brush. All right. Get some ink splatter on there. Yeah, I could totally, that would be really pretty to ink smush on some watercolor paper for sure. All right. So ink has been splattered. Let me just dry this off real quick. See, beautiful how that turns out, right? Right, yeah, this I could totally pick up with another piece of watercolor card, but I don't have any out right now. So I'm not going to. But yeah, this would be gorgeous. Oh my gosh, that would be beautiful. Cece, I know you're going to try it tomorrow. I'll have a good time with that. Okay. So let's pick this up. That's the end of our watercoloring. Okay. There we go. That's what I love about this glass mat for sure. I just wipe it right up. It's super easy. Okay. Watercolors. Away. All right. So next, we're going to do some stamping and heat embossing. So I need to grab my large Misty again. This is the original size. I always say large, but it's large to me. I do not have the scrapbook size one, the 12 by 12. All right, so if this is a little bit wonky, I just kind of bend it back the other way. It's so pretty. Beautiful. All right, so I'm going to pop this on my Misty. You know, another tool that I just got. This is the like sticky sheet thing from scrapbook.com. Let me show you how this works. It's sticky on both sides. I don't think I have this on my list. They sent this to me as a freebie. And there's supposed to be, oh, maybe this one doesn't have, oh, you know what? This one doesn't have the sticky on both sides. It's just one side. The nice thing about it is that I can use it to hold this piece in place. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Ah! Okay, so one of the things I've noticed about, I'm going to show this to you guys up close here, is you see that? That is like leftover watercolor. Sometimes the Altenew watercolors, if you use them too intensely, they smear like that. So I'm just using a little sand eraser to pick up the smear that just happened. Talk about a way to ruin a beautiful panel. I find it happens most when you do splatters because the ink ends up being so intense that it just likes to smear all over the place. So a little sand eraser usually cleans it up pretty decent. And then you just have to be careful to not run your hand over it. Well, you know what? It's going to be in the shaker. So that's going to be helpful. Okay. So here comes my stamp. Feed your soul. See, so I think I'm going to be able to cut out a lot of that anyway. I can even move it up if I want. So let's say I'm going to probably just cut out from in here. My finished size is 4 3/4. So let's see. Yeah, that'll work. Let's do that. So I'm going to kind of move my stamp into a little bit different position here. So see, I didn't even really need to use the magnet on the paper because it's being held in place by the sticky sheet, which is great. All right, so we're going to do, hey, remember this from last week? I made sure this was on the list this week, so that way you guys, if you want one, you grab one. The great thing about using this tool from Rabbit Hole Designs is that it lets out such a little amount of anti-static powder that you don't, it doesn't mess up your watercolor. Like, it doesn't make it look all dull, which is great. All right, so I'm just using my Versamark. The reason I'm using Versamark especially today is because our next, our layer here of embossing is going to be Distress Glaze. All right. So yeah, Becca, the splatters look great, but they did get smeared. It's a bummer. It happens. Okay. So there is that. And like I said, I'm using the Distress Embossing Glaze. Now, why did I choose to use the embossing glaze? A, it's purple. I kind of wanted something purple to go with this, just to kind of help with the fun colors that I have going on. And B, because it is a glaze, what's going to happen is the purple is going to kind of shift a little bit so you can see the color underneath it. And we talked about embossing powders a little bit last week in our private chat with the challengers. And one of the things that I showed them was how the glaze ends up looking different because you've got it overlapping on different colors, right? So that is that. And we're going to use that again in a second here. But see how you didn't see any of the powder on here, but yet the embossing only stuck where it was supposed to, which was great. So there you go. Yeah, Becca, I think what I saw was you can use just a damp cloth or a baby wipe to wipe stuff off on those on the sticky mat from scrapbook.com. And that should keep it fairly tacky for a while at least. I will tell you though, it is just the same as using a Cricut mat or an e-cutter mat. If you can get them at a cheaper price and cut it up, you can use it that way too. All right. So again, I'm using my Heat It tool, which I know you guys love because you can hear me while I'm talking. You don't hear a bunch of silence for the few minutes that I'm doing this, but it does take longer to keep the stuff up. I like the way that it makes heat embossing look, though. I think it melts it more evenly. Hot tamales. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got going on here. So can you see the difference? It looks black down here, and it looks a little bit lighter here, and then a little bit lighter here, and then of course purple up here. So it gives you this really cool kind of color shift because the glaze is just a glaze. It's not solid color. Now, if you don't have this, you're more than welcome to use any embossing that you have, any embossing powder. You can always do the stamp it in a color and then emboss over it in clear. That would work as well. You could use gold, silver, copper, whatever you want, metallic wise. All right, so what I'm going to do is chop this down to 3.5 by 4 3/4. So 4 3/4, 3.5. And I'll be able to like cut out this little yucky part right here, which is great. All right, so there we go. Beautiful. I guess I could have pulled it down just a little bit more. That's all right though. It's going to work just fine for our project. Okay, so while I have this out, I'm going to do our last embossing bit. And don't need this anymore. There. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do on our little sentiment, let me pull that up so you can see how this is going to work. So what I did is I put the sentiment into this die cut. So the die, here's the die. See, it's got this space at the bottom and then the thank you is built right into it. It's so cute. It's called the thank you word topper die. We're going to use that in a second. But what I'm going to do is stamp and emboss the sentiment first. So that way, actually, you know what? I can't do that. I just remembered it's really, I guess I can. I can. Okay, so what I'm going to do is mark the line along the bottom here. So that way I know exactly where to put my sentiment. Because you see this is solid, you can't see where you stamped in between. So I put a line on the bottom. You know what, let me put a line on the top. All right, and I'm going to put my sentiment right in the middle there. So you see what I did? I just took this and put it on here and penciled on both sides. Right, it gives me a space to put my sentiment in place. And I mean, you can do all sorts of awesome sentiments. But I did on my original one, I did your kind words changed my day, but I think I'm going to do this one here. It says, you bring a smile to my face. And all I have to do is get it nice and level in here. Sometimes these little strips start to bend a little bit. So the nice thing is I'm going to be able to grab that, take a look, see what I think. And then I can make adjustments on my mat here if I need to. Let me pull that over and see again. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to do heat embossing on this one again. All right. again, just for some mark, because I already had the purple out, I thought, oh, we could emboss this. We don't have to worry about using purple ink or anything. I can just use my embossing powder. Even though it's a glaze, when you put it on something white, of course, it's going to turn out that color, right? So this is our last thing we need to heat up. This thing really does get hot, guys. Let me tell you. I think I really should always be using some tweezers or something to hold the paper. Even this far away, my thumb is like, wow, that's really hot. All right. So see, it's nice and purple and nice and shiny. Somebody asked before, is it shiny? Yes, the glaze is still shiny. It's going to give you that nice embossed glazed look. So nice. All right. And that's it for our heat embossing. So we just kind of get things done in steps, right? So our stamping is done. Our heat embossing is done. Oh, that. Okay, I've got piles of things all over the place. Okay, so those guys can just sit there. So now we're going to do our die cutting. And because I marked this, right, now I know that I can just put my die right over the top of it. So Sue, is called an embossing glaze because it's exactly what it does. I'll pull you out one of my swatches so you can see it. I think I threw them around the corner earlier today. Let me see if I can find it for you while I run this through my die cut machine. All right, so it's called an embossing glaze because, see, this is what it does. If this is Uncharted Mariner, the new color from Tim Holtz. So if you put it over anything, and I just put it over some rainbow washi tape, you can see the color through it, right? It's not completely opaque. It's partially transparent. So anything that you put over or under it, you're going to see through, right? So that's why instead of being like completely opaque like a copper would be, right? You can see through it. So there you go. All right. Yeah, Carlos, exactly. You can get the sticky mats, you can get the silhouette mats, whatever mats you want. You don't have to use the ones from scrapbook.com. I don't know the price difference on them, if they're like cheaper or not. But I know you can get the Cricut mats and things like that from Amazon fairly cheap. So definitely worth doing maybe some pricing on it. Okay. So this guy, see, there we go, our sentiment, beautiful. And it pops right out. My letters pop right out. There we go. See, that's like a little topper. So cute. Okay, so I've got my 2 pieces ready to go. Let's make a shaky card, shall we? Oh my gosh, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. I've got some embossing crystals on my mat. It's so annoying. Okay. Wipe down. Wipe down one more time. Okay. So let's talk about this shaker card. Okay, I said grab yourself some recycled packaging, right? So it's got to be this kind of crinkly plastic packaging, not cellophane that's going to stick, not like cling film or saran wrap. You don't want that. You want a nice crinkly film, right? Okay. And you want it to be thin. We don't want it to be like a regular window sheet. Regular window sheet will bow a whole lot and make it look really funky. So if you don't have that, this is my other option. This is made by a company called Graphics. All right, they're based out of Ohio. And this is an acetate. This is a compostable, biodegradable acetate film. All right, so this is made from wood pulp and cellulose. It can be recycled, composted, or incinerated. All right, and so this is very similar. It's got more of a, okay, so like how this is super crinkly. So let's do a sound test. You hear that? And that. So it's got like a slightly different feel to it, but it has a similar density. It's about as thin. So, you know, I can fold it really easily. It doesn't, not going to bow a lot when I use, when I crease it, compared to a real thick acetate that we are so used to, right? Yeah. So Tracy, I do have this listed in the supplies list. I get it at Dick Blick. It's the 0.003 clear acetate. Super, super awesome. You can use it for a lot of different things, not just shaker cards. All right. Today I'm going to be using some recycled materials though, because I happen to have some. All right. So what I did is I cut down a piece of a package that I got, and I cut it down so that it's slightly larger than this piece here. All right, so can you see? It's hard to tell sometimes. So basically, it extends out about a thick 1/4 of an inch around each edge. All right, so what I'm going to do is grab my bone folder. And you saw me, I flipped over my little shaker piece. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by folding over an edge. I want to get a nice crease, so I'm going to use a bone folder to crease it. You don't want it to like, don't be too aggressive because you don't want it to like ripple, but you do want to get a nice crease on that, right? And I'm just going to kind of hold it all in place. I'm going to crease all the edges. All right, so crease, crease, crease. So now all 4 corners have been creased, and if I pull this out, I can see those creases. Those are good enough for me to see here, right? No problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip these corners so that way when I fold them down, I don't have all that little excess. It's not like a whole lot, but it's enough to give it maybe a little bit of bulk that you just don't want to have. So I'm just going to snip these corners off. It's nice because now that I have them creased, I can see where the corner is right there. And I'm just going to cut off that corner. So let me give you a little bit of a better visual because it's so hard to see that on the acetate, right? So if I had, let's say this was my piece of acetate, right? And I had all these corners creased like so. What you would see is this, basically. You would see all your creases, right? We'd see all those creases. So basically what I've done then is I took my scissors and I just cut right across this edge right here to cut off that corner, right? So that way when I fold these down now, when I have a nice mitered edge, right? For them to meet up, and then I won't have any extra bulk in the corner. So that's what I'm going for, is having that all cut. So I went around on my piece of acetate and I cut off all these edges. All right, so this is basically what you end up with, is a piece of acetate that's got all of your folds and then your corners cut off, right? Just wanted to make sure you guys could see that because, you know, acetate, it's clear. Okay, next, set our acetate aside for a moment. On the back side of our background page, now it doesn't matter what you've used. It doesn't have to be something this fancy schmancy, right? It could just be patterned paper. It could be solid paper. It could be paper with that maybe you did some stenciling on or whatever, right? I'm going to take 1/4 inch double-sided tape and put it on the back. Try to get it as close to the edge as possible without going over. It does not have to be perfectly on the edge, because you see how that one's not perfect on the edge? It doesn't have to be perfect, right? You don't have to use 1/4 inch either. You can use 1/8 inch if that's what you have. 3/4 inch is a little bit of an overkill for sure. But if you have 1/8 of an inch tape like this here, use that instead. All right, either way, that will work. All right, so we just put that all around our 4 corners. So our 4 corners are done up here. All right, our piece of acetate goes back down and our piece goes right on top of it, just like it was before. I'm going to pull off one side, do one side at a time. All right, and then I'm going to fold over and get this guy nice and adhered down. Now, if you still have some adhesive sticking out, I'll show you here. See how it didn't, it's sticky right there. It didn't go, the acetate didn't cover it completely. Don't worry about it, because we're going to be covering that all anyway. No big deal. So I'm going to do 3 sides. 3 sides. Do not completely close this up. Otherwise, you just have an acetate covered ground. Don't mess this part up. All right. And it doesn't matter which side you leave. So for example, I'm going to do the short sides. All right. So I have the 2 short sides and a long side done. So I kind of have a side pocket right now. It's kind of a good idea to do the top pocket, so that way you can put it in there and then take a look at it, see if you like how much shaker stuff you have in there, and then you can add or remove as you need. But if you do a side, it's no big deal, which is kind of why I'm showing you that. All right, now we get to fill it with stuff. Fill it with anything you want. You can fill it with little paper bits. You can fill it with sequins. You can fill it with this shaker garnish. This is from Picket Fence. It's just these little teeny tiny plasticky straws. This happens to be like a pink iridescent. Super fun. All right, fill it with whatever you want. Fill it as much as you want. There is like a point where you're like, oh yeah, I really filled that too much. And that's what happened to me the first time I did this. So I actually have a little container left over because I mixed these two and there was no way that I was going to separate them. So here's my leftover shaker mix. This has been sitting in my room for months now because I've been waiting for this class. So I'm just going to pour that in here. This should probably be enough. It helps if you pour it into the shaker, guys. It really does. All right, let me try that one more time. Get the rest of that in there. All right. And then I'm just kind of, you can fold over the side. Don't tape it down yet. Just fold over the side or the top or whatever, and then shake it around and say, you know, is that enough? I think that's pretty good. You'll know when it feels over full because it's going to be like bowing too much, and it's just going to feel kind of chunky. The things aren't going to move around as easily maybe as you'd like them to. So you might want to remove a little bit. And see, again, that's super nice. Nothing is taped right here, so you don't have to worry about anything sticking. Add as much or as little as you need. All right. And then once you have that ready to go, pull off your last bit of tape. Come on. I didn't get that stuck down well enough. I hate that when the tape wants to come off with the backing. And then go ahead and close it up. Now, you have the cutest shaker pocket ever known. So cute, right? Oh my gosh, guys. It's adorable. All right. Let's back it out just a little bit. Put this guy together. The rest of this card is just assembly. All right, so here's my background piece. Here's my card base. I made this so that it would have a really nice, thick border. All right. So let's see how that's going to go right on there. Now, am I going to glue this? No, I'm going to use another piece of double-sided adhesive, which is why I was like, it doesn't matter if the sticky is still a little bit apparent there, because we're going to put a double-sided adhesive sheet on the back, and it's all going to be good. You know, I don't want to do that. So there we go. So I've cut this to be slightly smaller than my shaker, so that way I don't have any adhesive sticking out. And I just peel back a little bit so I can get this nice and aligned. And of course, I'm always just peel and press. Peel and press. So now this is like a sticker, right? It's a totally cute stick bit here. All right. And that's going to help this flatten out a little bit. And it's going to keep it nice and flat on our card base, right? If you use liquid glue on this, it might pull up on the corners and then not stick all the way. And even after it dries, it might pull up a little bit. If you use just a regular tape runner, it's probably not going to be strong enough, right? So I really advocate for putting the double-sided adhesive on the back of this. Because I really think that that is the strongest thing to keep this stuck down to whatever you're putting it on. If you're going to put it in a scrapbook or a journal or something like that, same thing. Okay, so I've got it pulled away at the top here. So I'm going to align it from the bottom and make sure that I've got everything lined up the way I like it. Because with double-sided adhesive, you get one chance, and then you're ripping things apart and it's just not fun anymore. All right, so once I've got it where I want it, then I can kind of press up on the top here and get that stuck down. All right, and then lift gently to find my tab here. And again, peel and press, peel and press, peel and press. Super not bulky shaker card. All right, make sure all your little bits are shaking around just fine. So cute. Okay, and then we're going to put our sentiment across here. Now, you don't need to pop up the whole thing, but there is bulk on the end here, right? So I recommend you're just going to take a few little snips of adhesive strip or little foam squares or whatever. And we're going to put them on the side here where we think this is going to end up. And that's going to help hold that up into place. All right, so something like that. So I got just those two little tabs on the side, and that's going to keep these ends from going, you know, bending and being wonky. So I'm going to just trim this down real quick. So just got that trimmed down to 4 1/4. And then I can peel up my edges here. And I am gonna put, you can do liquid adhesive, or again, you can just do some double-sided tape, especially in the center here. I'm not even gonna worry about the thank you. You can put adhesive on it if you want. So I guess I will worry about it. You don't have to though. So if you want, you can put little drops of adhesive on here. But to be honest with you, it stays pretty decent on its own. So I'm just gonna peel off my backing here and then get this guy nice and aligned. So again, just line it up on the edge. There we go. Got the tape across the center there. That's all you need. Beautiful. So stinking cute and fun, right guys? Oh my gosh. Isn't that adorable? You can put this up, down, whatever. Like, so remember I didn't have it stamped all the way to the bottom. If I wanted to, I could bump this all the way down. Doesn't really matter. But I think they both look adorable. Super fun shaker cards. Excellent. Another way for us to use the same stamp in a completely different way. You learned 2 amazing techniques today and came up with a really, really fun project. So guys, I cannot wait to see what you create with this. And I hope you enjoy the dip dye. Oh my gosh. You guys have already talked about it like being super zen-like, right? It is super fun and relaxing to just do some dip dye backgrounds. Super, super fun. So have fun with that. Have fun with creating your shaker cards. I know a lot of you out there have not ever created a shaker card before, but now you've got the technique and you know how to do it. It's super thin, super easy. It's not a sticky mess all over the place with a whole bunch of foam adhesive. You guys are going to have a great time with it. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you have a wonderfully crafty weekend. If you loved today's video, please do give it a thumbs up on your way out. And I will see you here soon. But until next time, happy crafting.